When it comes to minis, you could literally spend $400 and get a ton of minis or one.
Or one. That is entirely true. I'm Nerdarchy Ted.
I'm Nerdarchy Dave.
Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. All right, so you came to the table with this one. You want to talk about terrain and minis, huh?
I do, and I'm actually the least qualified person to do it. But I brought it up anyway. But I have an expert here with me. I brought a friend. Ted is very knowledgeable when it comes to minis, terrain, scatter, all the different terminology. I don't even know what any of that means. I'm more of a theater of the mind type person, and matter of fact, I took over running for the group that Ted normally runs for. I'm like, you guys are gonna be really disappointed because Ted pulls out all of the stops when it comes to the at the table experience.
Yeah, I like to, when possible, custom make different things here and there, or go acquire if said thing is already out there. It's something that is fun. It's something that adds a layer to my personal games, but it's not for everybody. Now, yeah, we kind of almost bully our DM into like, oh, we're getting into a combat, grabbing stuff off to the side, we're putting stuff on the table to almost like force Dave down the path. And I say force jokingly, we don't have to go this route, but the table is kind of used to it. But
yeah, whether I break out the minis and terrain, they do anyway. So I just go with the flow. So what we want to do here today is I want to talk to Ted here, have him answer some questions, and kind of just like a basic guide for someone that's new to using minis and terrain. And hopefully this will be useful for you.
So let's kind of roll back the clock on Nerdarchy's gaming and kind of see like what was our progression when it comes to doing all of this, because when we started playing together, maps and minis weren't really a thing that was widely accessible. Like at that point in time, like we're talking about pewter minis that I hated pewter. I hated painting. I had a handful, but they weren't things that I was bringing to the table. So I can still recall a time over 20 years ago where we had a game. I was playing a spellcaster, as rare back in those occasions, or rare back in those days. And the DM had us up against 4 ogres. And we were playing completely theater of the mind. And the DM's like, okay, you're getting hit with this attack. I'm like, how is that possible? I'm over here. And back then, it was just like, all right, well, we need to see what this looks like.
But we did it. It was 100% theater of the mind.
Right. So we wound up getting into the point where we were just taking paper and hand drawing what things were, and we started putting out some of our extra dice. Our characters wound up being represented by D4s, monsters being represented by D6s, and things began to steamroll from there.
Yeah, so our earliest foray into putting something on the table was more about playing a more tactical game than it was about the immersion or experiencing what our characters are experiencing, and that's kind of what started for us. Even my earliest DM going back like 30 years would occasionally, because it can be complex, right? He would break out paper and start doing X's and O's, almost like a football play, so that we would know what was going on. And from there, I want to say the next evolution was actually like probably one of the earliest beginnings of Nerdarchy Ted's plastic addiction. 3.5 3rd edition Wizards of the Coast released pre-painted minis, and they were pretty good. They looked really fantastic. And the only problem was they were blind blisters, so you had to buy a bunch of them to get what you wanted, and which wasn't really a problem for Ted, or maybe a big problem. I don't know. It depends. You'd have to check with a psychologist or psychiatrist on addiction and things of that nature. But Ted just started accumulating blister pack after blister pack and having all kinds of minis to use.
I mean, it absolutely fell into the addiction aspect because, the collector mentality would sink in, and it'd be like, you weren't buying, when a new thing would come out, I wasn't buying, a pack or several packs. It's like you buy a case, 8 to 16 things, and I'd spend the time opening up and seeing what I got, and then, oh my God, the addiction of having to, what was not here? What do I have to then go find and buy to complete the collection? And it's, I wouldn't say it's steamrolled from there. I mean, I've got lots and lots and lots of minis these days, but this isn't all about Ted's addiction. This is about how you can get into all of this, and there's plenty of ways and plenty of cost-effective minis that are out there. So if you're looking to kind of get into the scene and do more than just a paper drawing, I feel like beyond the paper drawing, like the next evolution would kind of have to go in the direction of things that are cost effective as well as space effective. If you look beyond the cameras here, like there are thousands and thousands of minis, some on display, some just in boxes, but not everybody has the space for that. I know people who are like, look, I've got this gaming shelf. I've got a couple of books and I've got a couple of spaces for boxes, but if it doesn't fit there, I can't have it. So what are the options?
Well, and the other thing too is, if you play somewhere else, it's not easily transportable, right? So that's a good point, right? Like, so one of the easy things that anyone can do, like we even did this early on, is I bought a piece of plexiglass and got a T-square, measured it out, and for years we used the grid that I made.
That you hand drew, that has been erased so many times you can't see the grid anymore.
Yeah, well, no, well, actually, that's just from the age. It's because we'd flip it over and the grid would be on one side, we draw on the other. But like that's like the low tech and really affordable way. You buy the stuff once, dry erase markers, an eraser, and you can use it over and over again. You draw your rooms. You can even mark off where the monsters are and where the players are. But then, like, even for our own progression, I would say was adding the actual minis for the player characters, and then after that, adding the minis for the monsters.
Mm-hmm. But for the cost effective, there's plenty of things on Amazon where you can just go get, for like $20, multiple grids in like a tube that, all rolls up. Both of them are double-sided. I've actually got some here that we use, whether you want, grass, sand, stone, or what have you. You've got 4 different options in one little purchase. And then you can go with any of the flat minis, whether you're looking at, the WizKids brand. They have their 2D acrylics as well as skinny minis that are out there. Both of those are fantastic. And there's some other options as well. Then for terrain, you can also go in a 2D aspect. We're friends, with the wonderful people behind Dungeon Craft 1985 Games. They've sponsored some videos, with us. I've got, most of, if not all of their products. And I spice up my games sometimes with, okay, well, I'm just going to throw out these little easy to drop 2D tiles that represent, houses or terrain or what have you. It doesn't block line of sight, so you can still see where everything is, but it adds features to your game. Again, they're cost effective and easy to not only store but transport.
Yeah, you can put it all in a folder. Yeah, I remember in like 3rd edition days, I had actually gotten a bunch of the tiles and would use those occasionally as well. So where do we go from just using tiles and flat 2D stuff?
So that's an aspect where you can then move into a more 3-dimensional space, looking into either making or purchasing, scatter or things to spice up the game. There are plenty of D&D crafter channels out there that will show you how to make stuff far better than I can, whether you're looking at YouTube or Instagram or what have you. If you really want, call us out and I can give you a list of people that I'm friendly with that are great at doing stuff. But if you don't want to make it yourself, there are plenty of other great creators that are out there that can either 3D print stuff or, just straight up make it. I know I'm a personal fan of Galadoria Games. They're similar in Dungeon Craft to being able to make some scatter stuff, though I feel like their stuff is a little bit more cost effective, and they do have a fully painted option. I know I've used some of that stuff in the past in pictures and videos, and since I do travel for one of my games that I run, I have actually brought that in a recent session. I took some cool towers that were trapped and what have. So moving beyond the scatter, you could actually go into full-on dungeon tiles, whether you're looking into the creme de la creme Dwarven Forge, which I feel like is kind of like the top of the game, or whether you were looking for more of the double-sided Warlock tiles that come in a variety of different, stuff, whether you want like, oh, it's got stone on one side and wood on the other, so you can buy one set and have them, vice versa to, be what you needed to at the time.
What would you say the DIY cardboard crafters fall? Is that a step before that?
I would say it is if you're looking to make something yourself. It's definitely going to come before the, pre-packaged, pre-painted stuff. And cost-effective wise, if you're willing to put in the work, you're going to save money going in that direction.
Well, I bring it up not because of the cost factor, but because it's no longer 2D, but it's not like full on Warlock or Dwarven Forge where the dimensions are much larger.
Right.
Usually the profile is very low.
Right. So the homemade stuff I would put before the pre-packaged or already made stuff. You get to make it exactly as you want it, so it might come out better if you are a good enough crafter. I don't think I am, so that's why I do prefer the ready-made stuff for that aspect when it's in the budget.
I feel like DM Scotty is one of the early pioneers of crafting the DIY cardboard craft, where it's like there's a slight lip that gives you kind of a bit of a wall, but it's like a 1/4 inch. It's not high at all. And they teach you to make all kinds of stuff. And then there's other crafters like V Muse. There's
DMG Info, Black Magic Craft, all there's plenty of things that you can go out there, channels that you can search through and search for exactly what it is you want to make. There's somebody that either has it out there or has something that's close enough that you can then modify.
Yeah, and then from there you're going into the prefabricated stuff like Warlock and Dwarven Forge, or even some of the 3D printed stuff. You can probably find like Etsy shops and stuff like that are making it to the point where you're now putting out full-on dioramas, and really that stuff harkens and predates D&D back to the wargaming days when they would do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So if you're looking to kind of get to that eventual caliber with the whole diorama, it's a major impact. I mean, if you look at some of the things that Critical Role does, like they bring out, or Matt brings out the board with everything already assembled, and then he just puts, the characters where they would be on the map at that point in time. And that's something that I would like to eventually get to, working for the space to be able to say, like, all right, I've got a table and I've got, things set up to be able to do, but I'm not there yet. I'm hoping to eventually be.
Yeah, so, essentially, if you have the resources, you can, just start there, buy all the stuff and just have it. Or you can work, but if you don't, you can work up to it. Or maybe you actually enjoy the craft aspects and you want to tailor make the stuff to your own games. And, there's plenty of YouTube channels out there that you can check out and they'll show you how to do it. Or, you can start buying stuff piecemeal, or you can check out companies like 1985 Games and get the papercraft stuff, which is very affordable, easy to store, and highly transportable. Skinny Minis makes, flat plastic minis that are great. Splattered Ink Games just had a successful Kickstarter where they do the top-down view flat plastic minis as well that you can check out. They look really fantastic, super fun art style, and they're probably still taking pre-orders for their Kickstarter that you could go and get a really good price. For like $400 you get a huge assortment of minis.
Yeah, and it's all about what your investment wants to be. There's plenty of options. You just have to figure out where on that chart do you want to be right now, and dive in.
Because when it comes to minis, you could literally spend $400 and get a ton of minis, or one.
Or one. That is entirely true. I've done it. Trask. So it's a scenario that you have to make that choice. But if you're looking to get away from theater of the mind and add that tactical aspect to your game, which adds a whole new layer of fun and challenge, to the gaming table, dive in and see what it's all about.
Yeah, and depending on how much detail you go into, it can also add a very immersive aspect to the experience as well.
So if you like the things that Nerdarchy does and you'd like to support us, check us out on Nerdarchy the store, or come check us out on Patreon. Link is going to be down below.
What do you guys think? What are your recommendations for your favorite YouTubers that have crafting channels to share with the Nerdarchy community?
While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, click on that notification bell. You know the drill.
Quick reminder, we drop several new videos here on the channel every week, so come on back, but you can't wait till then. Check out this one, is 5e D&D, The Death of the D&D Miniature.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.